What's up, my dudes? This is Dustin Stelzer with another episode of Journey to Master. I had some comments about some people that wanted me to talk about my apprenticeship and what I went through as an apprentice, just kind of, I don't know, some things that I've learned or mistakes that I'd made as an apprentice. I think it'd be more comical and podcast worthy if I just talk about my fuck-ups. I've had quite a few. From like getting shocked to like, blowing shit up, breaking windows. I guess just let me start. So some of my biggest fuck ups as an apprentice electrician were, there was one day that it was raining outside and I was new to like hooking up panels, and the journeyman that I was working under, I was like, please just let me hook up all the breakers and everything. I was just so excited to do that. And he's like, all right. I was probably like 5 months in or 6 months in or something like that. So I knew how to do it. I guess I just wasn't thinking. And I was landing all the wires in the panel, and I guess somehow I hooked up a gas furnace, which has a 110 electrical outlet for the igniter. I hooked it up 220. So I turned the breaker on and went inside, and the circuit that igniter was on also was on a smoke detector circuit. This was an existing remodel. This was not a place that we wired. So I fried like 8 smoke detectors in this house. I fried a gas furnace, the electronics inside of it, smoked it, and there were like 10 light bulbs in the area, like an attic light and just some random lights that were like neutron stars. Like they were fucking super, super bright. I had never seen a light bulb turn that bright before. That was one thing that I did, and that cost a pretty decent amount of money to have to fix. Fried a furnace, 8 smoke detectors, and like 10 lamps. What else did I do? One time I was climbing up a ladder. I had like a 10-foot ladder, and I had it leaned up on a wall, and I was working up at the top of it. So I was standing like, the second rung from the top and working up over my head. And I was in a hurry. We were trying to like get a CO for a commercial place, and it was like it had to all be done that day, and there was just a punch list of stuff left to do, and I was still a helper. I was probably a year in at this point, and I was pretty much like running up the ladder, running back down if I had forgotten anything. Like I was moving, man, and I was working too fast, and learned a lesson in slowing down. I went up this ladder, and somehow I went up there and I didn't have the Phillips bit on the end of my drill. So I went up to drill, and I'm like, oh, fuck. I had to go back down again. And I was going back down, and somehow my foot, like, slipped inside of the rungs of the ladder. One of my feet did, and I just lost my footing, and I fell backwards. And as I was falling from the top of a 10-foot ladder, I landed on my foot. So I landed one of my feet down, and I landed on my ankle, but it was twisted. So I don't know how I can like fucking show this, but like I didn't land on the ground foot down. I landed like this on the ground, and I fucking hit, man, and everything that was in my tool belt, wire nuts, fucking, connectors, couplings, MC, everything just like exploded all over the building. And the owners of the building were there, the builders, like all of the interior decorators, a whole bunch of people from every kind of trade. I mean, like this was closing day. And I fucking fell, dude, and I hit hard, and I could tell right away. Like, not only was I just embarrassed, like I hurt my wrist too at the same time. I didn't like break anything, but I couldn't stand up. When I got up, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like my ankle hurt. It was in a lot of pain, and I'd never broken a bone before, so I didn't know what it felt like. But evidently, I fucking broke a bone, and so I'm like hobbling off to the side to try to get out, dude. Not a single motherfucker helped me. Everyone looked around at me, and they were like, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to have anything to fucking do with it. So I crawled my ass out, just dragging my ass along the floor, and drug myself outside. And people, there were some dickheads that the company that I was working for, and they were like, "Oh, come on, man, get up, like, you know, it doesn't hurt that bad." I'm like, "Dude, did you just see what I did? I think my fucking leg's broken." And they're like, "Yeah, you'll be fine." And so I fucking pulled myself over into one of the work trucks, and I hollered at somebody to go get the journeyman to bring me to the hospital. And so anyways, oh, and then this is like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and in Austin, where we were working, it's like there's only one way in and one way out from like way out of town to get into town where there's a hospital, and it was fucking gridlocked traffic. So I'm sitting there just in throbbing fucking pain, and it took us an hour and a half to get from that job site, probably, I don't know, 10 miles, to a hospital. And yeah, so I found out that I broke my tibia and fibula, you know, like I fractured both of the bones here, and I split them going upward. And then in my foot, like right here, there's a bone that just like tore out. It like broke off and it retracted up into my foot. And I never got that taken care of. The doctors were like, "Well, you could get surgery and get that taken care of. It's really not going to affect you that much until you're old. You may have problems walking, or you may like feel swelling and stuff going on." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So anyways, that was a big fuck up, breaking my leg. I still, like, I was in a wheelchair for a month and on hydrocodone and whatever. I was on a lot of things. But I still went back to work in a wheelchair, and I cleaned the shop. I was like, after 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, I just cannot fucking sit at home. I can't be idle and sit here in my house, you know, smoking joints, watching movies. I need to do something, and I'm getting paid, you know, like my boss was actually paying me for the entire time that I was off, that I was hurt, which is awesome. Paid for, you know, x-rays, paid for everything. And so I was like, all right, man, I need to go put some time in. I had a cast on, but I had still figured out a way I could drive with my left foot, and I fucking drove my big ass 85 Chevy pickup that's lifted. I drove that to work every single day, and I threw my fucking wheelchair in the back, and I brought that to the shop, and I would just roll around the shop, and I would like pick up couplings and, you know, connectors, and I'd sit and organize all that stuff, and or I'd organize plans, you know, and get them all like marked out a certain way. I wasn't doing anything that was really of that much help, but I was like, fuck, man, if this dude's willing to pay me and he gives a shit enough about me to take care of me while I'm hurt, I gotta do something, you know, like I've got to help him out. So I tried, and I learned how to do a lot of fucking wheelies and how to spin my wheelchair around. Like, that was cool as shit. I learned how to stay high on fucking opiates for a while. Like, oh my God. I think the weed helped way more than the opiates ever did. But anyways, so that was one big fuck up. Like, I really fucked myself on like just being in too big of a hurry instead of just slowing down and getting the same shit done, feeling like, oh, I gotta bust ass, I gotta get this done. I'm, you know, watching other helpers and seeing how they're working. I'm like, I gotta outwork him. So anyways, don't do that shit. Slow down, take it easy. What else? I broke a window in a work truck once. We all have ladder racks that you can just slide your ladders in, but like the ladder rack has huge gaps where the bars that go across the truck are. And it was raining outside, and we were in a hurry to get all of our shit loaded up, and there were no other ladders on the ladder rack. This was the first one. It was an 8-foot ladder, and I threw this thing up on the rack, and there's 2 bars on the back of the truck, so the ladder's sliding this way. And I guess how I threw it, I kind of threw it up too. It, instead of going across it and just sliding up on the truck, it dropped down right behind the fucking rear window and just boom, just smashed right through the back fucking window. So we had a 2-hour drive home, pouring ass rain, cold outside, no fucking rear window. And I think that was the second fuck up. Like, the furnace thing happened before that. The back window happened. And when that happened, I offered to pay for it. And then from that time forward, everything that I ever fucked up, that I broke, that I, you know, anything, I paid for every single one of them. And it made me start paying more attention and really trying to not fuck things up, because I'm taking responsibility for my own shit, and I'm not making somebody else have to take the financial hit of my stupidity or my not paying attention, because that's what it was. You know, like, accidents happen, but it helped me train myself to be a lot more careful, because I was tired of fucking paying for $450, you know, window to get put in, and then they put the truck in the shop for an entire fucking weekend. And so anyways, that's one thing. I've fucked some like smaller things up. Like, I remember being a helper one time, and we had a whole bunch of recessed cans, like 6-inch new construction cans, that we put in a back patio, and there was like a long line of them. And I remember nailing them all up and being really precise, but I didn't tighten down all the screws. And actually, I think that I tightened all the screws down to get the can to stay where it's supposed to be. But this, whatever brand we were using, they still moved a little bit. And the guys went up and put all this beautiful tongue and groove sealing up. And there was like 6 cans in a row. It was like perfectly in line with all of the tongues and the tongue and groove pattern. But it was like perfect. And then one of them was like 4 inches off from all the rest. And then it went back and it was like perfect, the whole line. So I fucked that whole line up. And the dickhead tongue and groove guys just went with it and just cut the shit out. So, you know, like dumb stuff like that, which I learned with recessed cans. When you're doing new construction recessed cans, I always take my clines out and I pinch the tabs on the sides of the actual sliding arms, so those fucking cans will not move. I screw, you know, all the screws tight, but I also go and pinch every single one of the tabs, because I don't want a can moving, especially since we do like a massive, you know, beautiful custom homes. I want every fucking can to be exactly where I measured it. And I always measure twice, you know. I'll take my 2 measurements, get it put up there, get everything tightened down and perfect, and then I'll just double check, you know, and double check from can to can. And but I learned that up by screwing a few up, or, you know, like even with sheetrock, I've done that where, you know, you have this beautiful can pattern and then one of them is just like kicked off. And they're ready for trim out, and, you know, they've already painted and textured the walls. So just dumb shit like that don't do. I don't really know what else I've like fucked up and made bad mistakes. I've been shocked a few times. Like, I've been shocked bad enough to where I question whether or not I want to fucking do this anymore, whether this is worth risking my life. I started doing side work pretty early on, probably too early on, but I also was a single dad, paying child support, making, you know, taking home like $300 a week, living on my own, trying to pay an apartment. Like, I was fucking broke, man. So side work sounded great to me, and I was out at this, like, way out in the middle of the country, at this house, and it was kind of like a plantation home, but it was a pier and beam house. So like the entire house, for those of you that don't know what a pier and beam house is, like, most houses are built on slabs. You pour concrete and then you build shit on top of the concrete. Well, pier and beam is, they set these piers and they put the house on piers and beams, and the entire house is like lifted about 3 feet off the ground. So there's an access hole underneath the house that you can literally crawl under the entire fucking house, and all the plumbing's run under there and all the electricals run under there. So to wire that, instead of like getting in an attic and drilling down, a lot of times guys would go under the house and drill up through the walls. Just a different way to do it, but it's a lot older homes are built or done that way. So anyways, there's this pier and beam house. The customer wasn't there. They had left. There was nobody around for like 50 miles. And I was underneath a pier and beam house, and the ground was saturated with water. It was fucking muddy and wet, and it had been raining out, so I was wet. And I was unstapling some wires because I was trying to put everything together in a junction box under the house. Well, one of the wires, I guess I didn't realize this particular wire was hot. When I pulled the staple off, the wire fell, and I didn't have the wires capped off, which is a fucking idiot thing to do, I know. Or like taped off or something. Just bare wires. Landed right on my fucking chest, right through me to the dirt, the water, and it bounced, you know. And I remember at that point, I didn't yell or I didn't like scream, or I did. I mean, I vocalized noises, but I didn't intend to. I didn't mean to. It was like every time I got shocked and that wire was bouncing on my chest, it was just like, ah, ah, ah. And I fucking like, I don't know how I got out of there, but I just remember rolling and getting out of the way and getting out and like feeling like I couldn't breathe. Like I just stopped my fucking heart. You know, it hurt so incredibly bad, and my entire body was wet too. So I didn't just feel it in one spot, you know, as it went through me. And you know, the hot and the neutral both touched me. So I was completing the circuit, but I was also so incredibly wet and saturated that there was literally no resistance for that to go through my whole body. But that shock scared the fucking hell out of me. And when I rolled out and got out of that thing, or got out of that bottom of that house, I took all my shit, I fucking packed it all up, I went and wired out those wires, rolled everything up, threw everything in my truck, and I said, fuck this, I'm done, I'm not being an electrician anymore. And started to leave, and I sat there and thought for a minute. I called my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, and I talked to her about it, and I was like, dude, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. Like, why am I risking my life for something that can fucking kill me? And she talked me down off the ledge, you know, like, she was like, no, man, this is what you do. Like, this is what you love doing. You just got to be more careful. And I stopped at the end of the driveway, and I kicked it in reverse, and I went back, and I finished the fucking job out. And I'm glad that I did that. I'm glad that, you know, fucking 9 years later, or whenever I was doing that, I don't know, it's been forever. But I'm glad that I went back and didn't be a little punk ass about it. But it scared the shit out of me, man. I've been shocked by 277, which I don't know how to explain to people that don't know what electricity is, but 277 volts is an incredibly powerful, excuse me, incredibly powerful voltage, especially depending on how much current you have on the circuit. It's an incredibly powerful thing to be shocked by 277 volts. Most of the time with shocks, when you get shocked 120 with very little current, like, you can feel it. It's like a little sting, you know, it's just like, ooh, fuck, okay. And you can move about your day. You know, when you get shocked by 220, it's a fucking powerful shock, you know, like it hits you and it really, really hurts. But it wakes your ass up, you know. Then there's 277, and 277 has this, I can't, it's hard to explain, but it's almost like this slow onset and then this maximum like a surge. So like I was working at a Hobby Lobby once, and there was an entire row, like all of their fluorescent fixtures up in the ceiling are all daisy chained together, and so it's like rows of 40 of them. And I was changing a ballast out, and I can't remember if I had the hot wire in my hand and I was touching, like grabbing onto it. I was trying to put Wagos on, but the neutral somehow fell, and it was already stripped out because this was an existing building, and it fell and hit me right on the arm. And I was on top of a 14 fucking foot ladder, and it hit me, and it just like, it was like, whoosh, like it had a shape to it. I don't know how to really explain that. Maybe if any of y'all have been shocked by 277, it was not just a pound. It was like this slow build, and then like, whoa, like it just took it like grabbed on, but like, in a weird crescendo way. That's the only way I can explain the feeling of it. But it was so fucking powerful that when it hit me, it just like rocked me up. And I was on top of a fucking ladder, and there's customers everywhere. Dude, I took that motherfucker like a champ. I didn't make a single noise. Nobody could even tell anything happened. I just locked up, and then I like looked around to see if anybody saw what happened. Nobody saw it. So I got down off that ladder, and I bent over, and I just sat and breathed for a while, and I was like, holy fucking hell, man. That was one of the strongest feelings that I've ever had from a shock. And you gotta imagine too, it's not that it's just 277 volts. Like, the voltage really doesn't matter as much as the amount of resistance you're offering to the circuit when you're completing a circuit or you're short-circuiting a circuit with your body. But the amperage too, like the current that's flowing through you, matters. And when you've got an entire row, 40 light fixtures, they're drawing a lot of amperage. And so if you introduce yourself to a circuit that's already drawing a lot of amperage through that circuit, it's going to hurt a fuckload more than it will if it's just, like a dead circuit. So anyways, oh, hey, by the way, y'all like my new hat? I found this. Isn't that pretty fly? Anyways, I'm a nerd. So that was one time I got shocked. I haven't been shocked by 480. I've been shocked by several thousand volts. And when I tell people that, they usually think like, holy fuck, are you serious? Like, how are you still alive? Well, you got to think, again, the load on the circuit is what's going to make the biggest difference, and the resistance and how you get shocked and all of that has a lot to do with it. But I was working on a 9,000 volt, no, it was a 12,000 volt neon transformer, which, you know, the transformer's like this big. It takes 277 in, or it takes, you know, 208, whatever. It takes whatever voltage in, and it ramps it up and gives you 12,000 volts out. And a lot of those neon signs, just to keep an arc, they have to have a high amount of voltage to go through it, and that's what lights up the arc inside of that tube. Well, this job that I was at, we had a neon sign that wasn't working. It just wouldn't come on. We were going through the controls and trying to get the controls on. We even had one of those little probes. I don't know what the hell you call them. We just called them a cow prodder. But it's like a stick that you hold onto and you push a button, and it's got like a telescoping, like a car antenna that comes out. And when you push it, it arcs at the end of it. It has a pulse of like 10,000 volts or 12,000 volts or something like that. But you can shock yourself with it, or you can shock your buddies at the shop. It's fucked up, but it's awesome. But you take that little probe and you can hold it and go up to a neon light without having the light powered or anything. Just go up to a dead light and you can hold it, and parts of that tube will actually illuminate. It's enough voltage to get the gas inside of the tube excited. So you can tell, like, okay, the glass is good. You know, if the gas in there is actually igniting, I know I have gas in there. There's not like a broken part of this sign that shit's escaping. Otherwise, nothing would happen. So we tested all of that. Like, the tubes were good. So I went and grabbed the, I went up and started fucking with the transformer. Well, the transformer was above a grid ceiling. Grid ceiling is all metal strips everywhere. It's an entire grid of metal, and it's held up by metal tie wires. It's that hold it up to metal beams. So it's just metal, 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 metal. Everything is touching, and all of that building metal is grounded on purpose. The electricians will ground the entire building. So clear path to ground. My dumbass, I'm on top of a 6-foot ladder. I have my arm on, like, resting on the grid, and I have a screwdriver that's like 11 inches long, and somehow my fingers were touching the shaft of the screwdriver, because I was like in a really fucked up thing, and I have like a flashlight in my mouth, and I'm trying to, like, you know, hold on to something and sit and unscrew the screw. Well, when you get close enough to voltage, like anytime you're really over about 600 volts, an arc will reach out and grab you. Whereas, like, you know, if you're ever messing with 120, you're not going to get shocked unless you touch that wire. But 1,000 volts, tens of thousands of volts will fucking reach out and find you if you're grounded to the ground, and it can find a source to ground through you easier than, you know, any other options it has. So 12,000 volt fucking transformer. I've got metal in my hand. I'm touching it like a fucking idiot. My arm is on the grid ceiling, which the entire grid is grounded. So it found a way through air. It hit my screwdriver, because my screwdriver only got about 2 inches away from the actual pegs on the transformer. But that shit arced off, hit my screwdriver, went through my arm, through the grid ceiling, and down to the ground. Now, that's 12,000 volts, but that neon sign wasn't working, so there really wasn't any. Actually, I'm sorry, I misspoke. When we prodded it with that prodder, the tube never did ignite, so there was a break in the glass somewhere. So there was no current running through anything. And when I got shocked, it was basically just a low-level arc that hit me, and it was weird. It felt like this tingly spider web attacked my hand and my arm. It wasn't a powerful, like, bang, you know. It wasn't like a huge amount of, like, a huge rush of current all of a sudden. It had a weird, like, all I can say is like a spider webby feeling. I feel like an electrical spider web attacked my hand. It was the weirdest feeling. But it didn't hurt that bad, you know. Again, there was just no current in the circuit. And, you know, the windings of that transformer, there's so much resistance and back EMF built up that it provided enough resistance that it didn't shock me that badly. it's really all I can think of, man. Like, I mean, I've fucked up cabinets before. A lot of you young guys, when you start doing this, if you're in a place and there's like nice wood lower cabinets, you know, like around an island, you've got like a nice marble or like a granite countertop, and then underneath the painters just put this like beautiful paint job on all the cabinets. Well, guys will get up there with their tools and they'll just walk up and like lean against counters. Well, you got that metal buckle, or you've got, you know, sharp tools hanging out, and guys will just brush along this whole thing, or they'll like move and scrape these cabinets. I've done that. I've fucked up cabinets by just having my tools on and not paying attention, not leaning on the actual countertop and then scraping along that wood. I've put tools down on granite countertops and chipped the fucking countertops. And granite's not cheap, man. I've chipped tiles, you know, I've like dropped stuff on tile, or I've just taken my tools, you know, you're walking into a job and there's like brand new tile, like nice big expensive tiles, 18-inch tiles, and you set all your shit down and it either takes a chip out, or I've cracked entire fucking tiles before. I've fallen through sheetrock. Not very many, no, actually only one time. I've put my foot accidentally through sheetrock a couple of times when I was up in an attic. But not ever falling. I fell through one fucking attic one time, and I was in a garage. I don't know what happened. Like, I think that a lot of times when I'm in an attic, I don't hang on to stuff. I'm just confident enough with walking on studs that if the attic's large enough, I'll just walk across all the studs. Well, I didn't have anything nearby to grab at this particular place, and I missed my step, and I fucking fell right through. They were 24-inch centers on the trusses. They weren't 16 inches apart, so 24 inches, my skinny ass fell fucking right through it, man. Fell right on my ass, and there was some like massive hole in the ceiling. I've known some guys to do that, quite a few guys. I don't know, man. I've fucked a lot of things up, but that's how you learn, you know? Like, I pay for everything that I fuck up too. Everything. I've fried some equipment, you know, that's not very cheap, but working for my boss, I didn't ever want there to be a reason for him to want to fire me or think of me as a liability. So anything that I ever messed up, I made sure to keep the relationship that I had with him, to have him know, like, hey man, I see that this is your company and you shouldn't have to pay for my fuck ups. So I think paying for your own mistakes is actually a really smart thing to do. Problem is, you're probably not getting paid very well, so it's going to hit your bank. So on that note, just be more careful, guys. Like, really, really slow down when you're working and think about the fact that somebody else is liable for you, for everything you do, for all your mistakes. People's lives are also the master electrician's liability. You could hurt somebody seriously. And, you know, doing hack work and taking corners and thinking like, I really don't have to put a ground on this thing. And then some little girl walks up and just, you know. I've heard stories of people getting shocked. Like, there was a master electrician in Florida or something. I don't remember where it was. I'm just making that up. But he had two guys working for him that didn't even have apprentice licenses. And they were wiring up some pool equipment. And somehow they backfed that pool equipment. And there was a 14-year-old boy that went into that water and got shocked, and he couldn't get out of the water, and it killed him. And when you're in a pool of water and there's electricity flowing, like, you're just in a sea of electricity, of current, you know. So killed this boy. The master electrician got prison time, and both of the guys that unlicensed workers that he had under him got, I don't even remember if they got time. The master lost his license and got like I don't remember what the sentence is. I'm going to actually try to find that. I'm just blowing facts out of my ass, or like, you know, things that I remember. I just remember hearing this story several years ago, but it makes me curious to actually look the story up. So I'll try to look it up and actually update y'all on that story, because it's a really good lesson to learn. But anyways, guys, just keep in mind, like, what we do is really dangerous to ourselves. It's dangerous because it can cost a lot of people or it can cost some people a lot of money with your fuck ups. But you can also kill other people, you know, or significantly hurt other people. It's a dangerous craft. It's a cool thing. It's, again, I call it like an invisible, mysterious force, because that's kind of what it is. It's almost like if there is a God and you could work with the energy of God, it's like magic. It's like having a magic power that you get to sit and fuck with. So, learn to respect it, be very humble. You need to know that electricity is in charge. It's the one that's in control. And you're just there like a fireman, like trying to direct this current, wherever it needs to go. And you have to make sure that you think about how powerful it is and what it is. And the fact that it can fucking kill people. So don't shortcut yourself. Don't take corners. If you nick a wire or something, don't look around and be like, nobody saw that. Like, integrity is what you do when no one else is looking. Do good work. Do the work right. If you fuck something up, just redo it. You're getting paid for the same 8 hours. Like, if it takes you a little bit longer to do something, a lot of people don't like redoing work that they just did, but it's like, if you fucked it up, redo it. Like, either way, you're here to get paid. Somebody's paying you to do work. Why would you allow yourself to do shit work and take money from somebody for that? Like, I'd rather be taking money knowing, like, I'm working my fucking ass off. I'm doing the best that I'm capable of doing at the time. Like, I'm really trying, and I really feel like I am earning the money that I'm being paid. I'm not just half-assing it and trying to get by so I can skate by and get a check and, anyways. That's really all I got, man. I'd love for some of y'all to share your stories. Go to Facebook and under this post, post some stories. Or the Electrical Wizard group would be a good place for this too. Like, maybe I'll start a thread on there and just have all of y'all post the dumbest shit that you've messed up or the worst you've ever been shocked. Or if you know anybody that's died from a shock. I know there's one last story. And I don't know this guy. This story was told to me by a gentleman that I know. This is a really sad story. But there was a guy, master electrician, that was up in a bucket truck working. And he was working on a sign. And I think it was at like a bank or something like that. There was nobody at the bank. It was before the bank had opened up. And he's up in this bucket truck working on a sign, and he has a helper, and the helper's down by the electrical room turning breakers off and turning breakers on. The master's like hollering at him, turn this on, turn this off. He tells him to go turn the circuit off that he's working on. He's trying to change out a ballast. And I don't know if a lot of you know if you've ever worked on signs before, but there's a lot of signs, like massive pylon signs or monument signs, that you have to actually crawl inside of, and the entire thing is metal framed, and you're standing on metal, and you're wrapped up in metal, and it's electricity and metal, and it's a dangerous environment to be in if power were just all of a sudden to come back on. And that's what happened. This apprentice was guarding the door just in case anybody was to come by and try to go into the electrical room for any reason. Well, the apprentice didn't realize that somebody had gotten to the bank and was inside, and this apprentice was flipping several breakers off. So there were lights that weren't working, and there weren't lights that weren't working. There were lights that were off because this apprentice was kind of flipping shit and didn't know what he was doing. He was just trying to find things, and the master was yelling at him. So anyways, this master electrician decides he has to go take a piss, leaves the circuit off to the sign, and he walks off and goes to the bathroom, and he's in there for a little while, and he comes back out, and he starts yelling up to the guy in the bucket, and he doesn't hear a response. And he's calling for him and trying to call him. The dude's fucking dead up in that bucket. Or, I'm sorry, in the bucket, but he was like in the sign and in the bucket. Evidently what had happened is that person that came into the bank realized that there were lights not working, and so they decided to go around to the electrical room, not realizing somebody was outside working on the electricity. And they started flipping these breakers back on that they saw were off, and shocked that fucking guy and wrapped him up in that sign and killed him. Because that apprentice left, didn't say anything about leaving, but he wasn't guarding the door and he wasn't watching out for his guy. And so that's, it's shit like that can happen very easily. Very, very easily. But when you're in situations like that, this is something for you apprentices to talk to your journeyman about, and for you journeyman and masters to talk to your apprentices and talk to all your guys about. Like, watching out for each other is one of the most important things that we do every day. It's my job to make sure that my dudes get home to their wife, and it's their job to do the same with me. Because we work with such a dangerous thing, just always watching out for each other, and always, even going overboard with it and just like over communicating, you know, when somebody's driving a scissor lift, the guy on the ground is communicating and like, hey, you got somebody down this aisle, they're not a problem, but just, you know, just like overdoing the safety thing. I know some people are like, oh, OSHA, blah, blah, blah. But when you have a really dangerous craft that you involve yourself with and you rely on other people to make sure that you're being safe, it's something to practice and like take seriously, man. Just don't gaff off the seriousness of this trade. You know, there's a quote that I like: don't take yourself too seriously, but take what you do with deadly seriousness. And this craft, I think that really hits home. So I love y'all. Stay safe. Watch out for each other. Keep working on, you know, like trying to be a good fucking human and live your life like you only got one, because as far as we know, you only got fucking one. But I love y'all, people. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. I'll have another episode coming pretty soon.